Sophie and Dylan had been married for a span of 4 years. It was a whirlwind romance that resulted in Dylan proposing to his beloved in a spur-of-the-moment fashion. They had been dating for a bit over a year, and Sophie, being only 23, was quite young and full of fiery emotions. During a heated argument, she threatened to leave him. Dylan, being older and understanding the influence of emotions, knew that her words were spoken in the heat of the moment. However, the fear of losing his beloved overwhelmed him, prompting him to propose to her. In the years that followed, Dylan had no regrets. His love for Sophie remained as strong as ever. When Sophie grew weary of her current job and decided to quit, her husband wholeheartedly supported her decision. "Go ahead and resign. You've been complaining about it for ages. I'm sure you'll find something better soon," he encouraged her. "I'm not in a rush to find something new," she replied. "Right now, I want to take a break and contemplate what direction to take next." For the next 6 months, Sophie spent most of her time either at home or hanging out with friends. The search for her true calling seemed to stretch on, and the atmosphere at home grew tense. The past month, in particular, was marked by a series of unfortunate events. Dylan attributed it to his wife's personal crisis. Sophie had lost interest in everything, including her husband. She was adrift, uncertain of what she wanted from life. Dylan believed that this was only a passing phase and things would eventually improve. He simply needed to exercise a little patience. However, he found himself hesitating to come home after work, burdened with a sense of apathy. In fact, his sorrow ran deeper than that. At some point, he came to the realization that he was ready to embrace fatherhood and expand his family. However, upon seeing his wife's demeanor, he understood that it wouldn't be the right timing for him. The plans of his colleague, Levi, aligned perfectly with this sentiment. Dylan regarded Levi as a close friend, even though they didn't see each other frequently outside of work. But when you spend the majority of your day with someone, they become a part of you. This colleague started asking him more and more frequently to cover for him in front of their superiors, leaving early with a sly smile, claiming personal matters needed attending. Dylan let out a sigh, but acquiesced to the requests, allowing at least one person in his personal life to experience something joyful. Initially, Levi sought a favor a couple of times per week, but then it escalated to every single day. And in the past week, these pleas for assistance were accompanied by sheer audacity. Levi even asked Dylan to complete some of his own unfinished tasks. Though Dylan didn't fancy the idea, he didn't rush to refuse and only agreed after receiving his friend's persistent consent. Levi carried on with his endeavors, growing increasingly content. Then, on a scorching summer day, when Dylan found himself alone in the office for the past hour and a half, he resolved to take a break and rid his phone of old photos. Browsing the gallery, the gentleman stumbled upon joint photographs with Sophie from their initial seaside vacation. His heart clenched in that instant. They had both been so content, as if the next moments would be equally blissful. Just like that day, he suddenly longed for his wife intensely. He grew weary of how they had gradually become strangers to each other. In a surge of these thoughts, he resolved to leave early and spend quality time with his wife. He stepped out of the stuffy room and briskly strolled towards his car, brimming with joy. "Gotta make her happy," he pondered, and initially decided to swing by the store. He purchased some exquisite flowers and the usual party cake, believing that it would surely bring joy to his wife, or at least replace her sour expression with a cheerful smile. He returned home content with his actions. As he approached his usual parking spot, Dylan noticed it was occupied, and the car occupying it appeared strikingly familiar. Glancing at the license plates, an unsettling shiver coursed through the man's spine. It was Levi's car, and as far as he could recall, his colleague never ventured to this part of the city. And now, according to Levi's own words, he was supposedly building a personal life here. Leaving his car by the adjacent entrance, Dylan rushed towards his own. He had never darted into an apartment at such speed before. To his surprise, it was exceptionally tranquil throughout the space. Cautiously, he ventured inside and noticed the slightly open door to the bedroom. Internally, he steeled himself, knowing that once he stepped through that door, his life would be forever divided into two phases. However, he knew this step was necessary. Pushing the door further, his eyes beheld his most dreaded nightmare unfolding before him. His wife and Levi lay on the bed, engrossed in each other. From that point on, he felt a loss of control over his actions as a husband. Seizing the treacherous coworker, who took advantage of their friendship, he struck a fierce blow, channeling all his anger and frustration into it. Caught off guard, Levi crumpled to the ground. Approaching Sophie, prepared to do anything, she instinctively extended her arms in defense, vehemently declaring that she would leave if he dared to touch her. This piercing outcry snapped Dylan back to reality, compelling him to gather himself and prevent any actions he might regret in the future. The ensuing divorce came swiftly. Dylan cringed at the realization that his former friend hadn't been lying about intending to build a life with Sophie. They had indeed moved in together and made it official. Dylan harbored lingering anger for some time, foolishly covering for Levi while he carried on an affair with his wife. He battled the urge for retaliation against his former comrade. Subsequently, he brought his supervisor's attention to Levi's habitual early exits and other serious misconduct on his part. Even though he harbored distaste for tattletales, in this scenario, he believed Levi had earned such behavior towards him. Post-divorce, Sophie found joy in her newfound life. A handsome lover by her side doting on her, a fresh living space. Rather than hustling her off to work, he instead suggested that a woman shouldn't have to work amidst a new relationship, a relationship she no longer had to keep under wraps now. The lady basked in relaxation, emerging from her protracted melancholy. However, this period of marital bliss was short-lived. Levi's unexpected termination from his job drastically shifted the dynamics. Taken aback by this unforeseen turn of events, he was left disoriented. He started to press Sophie into finding a job. She tackled this challenge effectively and promptly, driven by the belief that her beloved needed immediate assistance. So, she did not probe for complex roles, opting for the first job opportunity that didn't necessitate previous work experience. Levi, on the other hand, seemed to be procrastinating on his job hunt. I presumed he needed some time off, and that his job could wait. Sophie initially didn't recognize that her recently betrothed husband had grown too comfortable and was exploiting her. But when the realization struck, she was utterly devastated. The flawless scenario she'd pictured started to disintegrate. Not really getting to know this man in her normal life, she hastily entered into a new romantic relationship, believing that it would surpass the previous one. However, her assumption turned out to be wrong. While she was considering her next course of action, the predicament only worsened. As it turned out, Levi was addicted to alcohol. Obviously, his previous stable job and habitual daily routine restrained this tendency, but now that he did not have these restrictions, he became licentious. One day, Sophie returned home from work only to find him in the kitchen with several alcoholic friends and copious bottles of hot drinks. She had no desire to cohabit with an idle alcoholic man, but she was also worried about another issue: possible judgmental looks from others if she divorced for the second time within a year. What kind of rumors will be heard behind her back? Thus, she continued to confront her sad fate, constantly regretting that she had changed her former existence to the current one.